What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Chris Evans here with Zero Meter Chasers live on this July 14th here at 3:41 Eastern Standard Time. I just wanted to do a quick live update here. This will not be that long, but I have taken a couple days off from these live video updates. So I definitely wanted to jump back on here and kind of give you guys an update of what the conditions that we have right now in Kentucky and what to expect as we get into the later of the week. So as always, if you guys could just put a thumbs up in the chat, let me know that my audio is working correctly here. Just so I know that you guys can hear me, and we will get started. So we're looking here at the Kentucky Mesonet website, and you can see our air temperatures in Kentucky right now are in the mid to upper 80s. Here we are looking at Hardin County with an 85 degree temperature with a 71 degree dew point. So we still have those high and oppressive dew point values. And if we look at the heat index here, you will see we have the heat index values, especially in far western Kentucky, starting to approach 100 degrees. Everywhere in Kentucky at least has a 90-degree heat index value. And we'll continue to see those increased heat index values the next couple of days with more of a traditional type of summer-like pattern as we get into the next couple of days. And we do look to introduce another rain chance as we get into the weekend. And we'll kind of cover that in this video. But again, if we look down here at the camera here in Hardin County, you can see some of those cumulus clouds that are starting to fire up in the sky. And we do have a very low end isolated shower chance as we get into the afternoon and evening hours. But I don't think many in Kentucky are going to remain dry today. So that's a good thing. Again, we've had a very active June and July here in Kentucky. We've had anywhere from 10 to 15 inches of rain widespread over the last just couple of months. And it's going to continue to get active, I think, as we get into the late July and early August. But I do think that we'll start to see a decrease in some of this humidity and heat values. And we'll kind of cover that here in this video as we get going. So now we're going to look at the Weatherfront website here. This is the SPC Outlook, or the Storm Prediction Center Outlook for today. And something that we haven't really been able to say, we're going to kind of look at the flooding risk for today, severe risk. And you'll see none of this is really centered around Kentucky. So that is a really good thing. And I do not think that we'll see any of those flooding risks really for the next couple of days. So I do think that it's a really good thing that we're starting to see a break in some of this active weather, because we've had a lot of areas in Kentucky that have been impacted with rising creeks and rivers and just flash flooding over the last couple of weeks. So it's really good to get a little break here. You will see, I did want to cover this real quick. If I go all the way up here to the Northeast United States, you will see we have a enhanced risk, a level 3 out of 5 up here in portions of Maine. And you'll see we also have a 10% hatch tornado risk for today. Not very common up here in Maine or the Northeast in general. So if you have any friends or family up here in the Northeast, a very interesting setup. I definitely think we'll get strong damaging wind gusts with this kind of setup up here in the Northeast. But I mean, just a wild setup up there. But again, if we go back down here to Kentucky, you'll see only the western part of the state is even under a thunderstorm risk for today. And we'll kind of look at the HRRR. You'll see we will not have very many thunderstorms as we get into the afternoon and evening hours today. Here's the flooding risk, the rainfall outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. And again, if we look at Kentucky, we don't have much of a flooding risk. We're not going to have a flooding risk for the next couple of days at least. But again, if I scroll out, or if I zoom out here and I go down to portions of Texas, just west of San Antonio, you will see there is a high risk of flooding today in between Del Rio and San Antonio. And some of the model data has been hinting at areas of 15 to 20 inches of rain in the next 48 hours in this area. So a very, very significant, considerable flash flooding threat down here in Texas. Luckily, again, we don't have to worry about that, but I definitely wanted to highlight that, as we could get very significant flash flooding that could happen here to the west of San Antonio. So again, if I look here, locally in Kentucky, here's our flood out risk for today. Not much of a flooding risk today. If we move that into Wednesday, you'll see it's kind of centered here in portions of Missouri and Arkansas. And then if I go to day 3, there's no flooding risk here at all. But then when we get to the weekend on Friday and again on Saturday, you'll see we do start to uptick in a chance of definitely some shower and thunderstorm activity, especially as we get into the weekend. And we are going to cover that here, but just for the next couple of days through Thursday, we're not going to have much of a storm or flooding risk here in Kentucky. And even with those humidity values a little bit elevated, we're not going to see those heat index values over 100 degrees. So again, if I share the heat index values right now in Kentucky, we are approaching 100 degrees down in Fulton County in far western Kentucky, but many in Kentucky are keeping the heat index values in the mid to upper 90s. And I think we'll continue that trend here for the next couple of days. Again, the humidity does not look as aggressive as it did before, but I do think that we could have it's still a more oppressive heat. 70-degree dew points are not fun. So hoping to get some of this heat out as we get into the end of the month. And I will cover that here once we get through what to expect through the end of the week. I will do a quick update on kind of what I think will happen here at the later part of the month. So here is the HRRR, and this is the projected radar as we move into the afternoon. I'm going to back this up just a little bit. Here it is at 5 p.m., and you'll see, especially where you're starting to get some of that, most of the heating out here in far western Kentucky. We could have a couple of straggling, isolated thunderstorms that could pop down here. It's not a big issue at all, but if you're in between Paducah and Hopkinsville, there is a isolated rain or storm threat as we get through the afternoon and evening hours. But if you look statewide here, that is the only rain chance that we're really going to have. So again, that's a really good thing. The fact that we are not going to have to deal with any rain, at least today, widespread rain. And then as we get into tomorrow, we'll again kind of continue the same kind of trend with a more hotter type of day. I think our air temperatures are going to be in the low 90s with our heat indices in the mid to upper 90s. And again, if you look at the HRRR, here's your timestamp for tomorrow at 5 p.m. There could be a 1 or 2 very isolated showers, but we're not looking at a widespread rain or storm chance for today or tomorrow at all. If we look at the temperatures here from the HRRR at 5 p.m., again, you'll see we have, especially up here in northeast Kentucky, it's showing 100-degree temperature up here in Cincinnati, but sometimes the HRRR can overmix and have too high of a air temperature. So I do think just upper 80s to lower 90s with those heat indices to the mid 90s look very likely as we get into tomorrow. Again, looking at the heat indices, they're going to stay in the mid 90s really throughout the week. We're in a real summer type pattern this week, and I think we'll continue with those heat indices a little bit elevated as we get through the week. So again, not much of a rain chance as we get through our Tuesday and Wednesday here in Kentucky. I just don't see much rain on the forecast, but if we go to the NAM here, we'll go to a different model because the HRRR can only see to Thursday at 8 a.m. So as we get into Thursday, actually what I want to do is pause real quick. So I've kind of covered what to expect as we get through Thursday morning here. And I think especially the next couple of days are going to be very nice days. They're going to be a little bit more warm and humid, but we're used to that the last couple of weeks. We've had that. It's not going to be as humid as it was last week, but it'll still be kind of humid as we get through the mid portions of this week. So just wanted to make sure I covered that. And then I kind of want to get into the pattern that is a little bit changing as we get to the end of the week here. If you look, here's the NAM as we get to about 8 p.m. on Thursday, and you'll see it has kind of an uptick on that shower and storm activity, especially out here in the Boot Hill of Missouri and far western Tennessee, and also up here into Indiana. But again, if I fast forward this a little bit more, as we get into our Friday, it does look like we're going to start to introduce more of an isolated or a more scattered storm chance as we get into our Friday, and especially as we get into our Saturday. We'll have to track up here to the northwest and kind of see what's kind of tracking, as most of the flow is kind of coming up here from Illinois. But I do think that we'll start to enter in some more scattered rain and shower chances and storm chances as we get to the weekend. Again, the Storm Prediction Center does have that marginal risk of flash flooding. So we'll have to kind of see how widespread these storms will become as we get into the weekend. But I don't think we'll have more of a widespread storm chance until we get into our Friday or Saturday of this week. I think that's when our more significant or more widespread rain chances will come. So overall, I think our forecast looks really good for the next couple of days. We're going to continue to see warm temperatures and nice blue skies here in Kentucky. As we get into the weekend, I do think that we could introduce a little bit of a storm chance. And what I wanted to do now is kind of cover any chance of the severe risk that we'll have as we get into this weekend. This website can be a little bit hard to navigate, so I am going to go through it with you guys. This is looking at all the different types of weather data or weather model data that we look at when forecasting severe weather. And this is going to Friday. So this starts on Friday. And as we get to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so this line right here is Friday, this line right here is Saturday, this line right here is Sunday. And each one of these boxes is a model. And it's predicting where the severe weather threat would materialize as we get into the weekend. And you can see, especially here on what we call the CSU model, it's one of the, in my opinion, and just highlighting where severe weather is possible. It does a really good job of doing that. You'll see it has a low end severe risk as we get into our Friday. A little bit higher, 15% chance in the upper Ohio Valley as we get into our Saturday. And then again, a 5% chance as we get into our Sunday. I do not think that this is going to be widespread severe weather. I don't even think it's going to be as widespread as last week was. But I do think an uptick in just more general summertime thunderstorms in the afternoon, kind of those pop-up thunderstorms look very possible as we get into the weekend. And even as we get into early next week, I mean, if you look, the CSU from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday has a 5% for each day. And what that is telling me is that we're probably just going to continue to see kind of those pop-up thunderstorms as we get into the afternoon and evening hours throughout the end of our week this week, and possibly even as we get into early next week. So that is kind of what I'm looking at here. I don't think severe weather is going to be a big issue. We just don't have much of a low pressure or wind field with this system. But I do think that it'll be more of an uptick of storms than we've seen earlier this week. And especially if they're more slow moving complexes, we'll have to watch for a little bit of a flash flooding risk as we get into the weekend. And I know that's not something that a lot of people want to hear. It's something that I really don't even want to hear because I'm tired of the flooding too. So, but that's what I got for you. I am going to open up the floor for any questions here through the end of the week. So I've kind of covered here through the end of the weekend here. So really through July 18th, I think scattered showers and thunderstorms, kind of your typical summer afternoon thunderstorms look likely as we get into the weekend. We'll have to see how widespread they are to see if we have any type of a flash flooding risk that will kind of materialize as we get into the weekend. So again, I'm going to give you guys a couple seconds here to put in some questions. I did want to show one more thing about kind of the outlook on what to expect as we get into the end of the month, because I think that might make some of you guys a little bit happier, at least me a little bit happier. So I will open up the floor for any questions for the next couple of days in Kentucky. And if we don't have any questions, I will move on, as I do have to get off here a little bit quicker than usual here this morning or this afternoon. So what I wanted to do now is I'm going to go ahead and pull this up here from the Climate Prediction Center. And we'll go ahead and talk about the end of the month. So as we move on to the end of the month, especially the later parts of the month, you guys see, if I zoom out here, this is the temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. So they're predicting what the temperatures are going to be compared to normal during this time frame, which is July 20th through July 24th. And you'll see, look what's finally starting to creep in here into the forecast as we get into the end part of the month. And it is that blue, which is temperatures below normal. Something we haven't heard in a long time here in Kentucky. Does look like as we get into the end of the month, especially early August, I think we'll start to get a relief from some of this oppressive heat and humidity. And especially as we move here to the end of the month, July 22nd through July 28th, which is the farthest that the Climate Prediction Center will forecast for temperatures, you'll see that below temperature gradient is all the way set up here from the Great Lakes into the Ohio Valley. And you'll see the more above average temperatures will be down here in the southeast. So really hoping we can get, it does look like as we get into maybe July 20th, about 1 week from today, maybe 6 days from today, we'll get a low pressure that'll kind of drop in a cold front that'll bring this colder pattern, hopefully, at least for a week or two, where we can get some of these mid 90s out of the way. And again, if our temperature is usually about 90 degrees, this is predicting that it'll be about 10 degrees lower than average. So I think I would sign up for high temperatures in the mid 80s right now. I don't know about you guys, but that's something that I'm definitely looking forward to as we get into the late part of July. And if we look at the precipitation outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, you'll see we're not looking like this is going to be a setup for heavy rain. So the heavy rain's kind of setting up out here in the western United States for the next couple of weeks. And will be, I don't want to say a quiet pattern, but it looks a lot more quiet than the pattern that we've had recently here in Kentucky. So that's something to look forward to. Hopefully we can get this cooler temperatures in here and kind of get some of this oppressive heat out of here, because I'll tell you, it is hot outside. And I know I just got done telling you guys it's not as hot as it was last week, but it's still hot. So I love the cold temperature. I don't know about y'all, but I'm ready for the snow this winter. I'm ready to get going with some winter forecasting. So just trying to get through this oppressive heat wave here. Very typical in July, though. We've actually been pretty lucky in Kentucky because we haven't had widespread heat except for the last couple of weeks. For most of the summer, it's been pretty cool. So hopefully we can continue that pattern here as we get into the end of the month, and we'll kind of look and see what the pattern will look like as we get into August. So that is all I got for you guys. Again, I'm going to leave the chat open for a couple of seconds here for any questions, comments, or concerns that you guys have. Again, as we get into the next couple of days, no shower or storm chance in Kentucky. As we get into our Thursday through Sunday, I do think more scattered showers and storms look possible, but it looks more like a summertime pulse thunderstorm more than an organized severe risk here in Kentucky. And we'll have to kind of watch and see if we'll have a flash flooding risk depending on how organized the storms become as we get into this weekend. But I don't think it's going to be a washout. So if you have weekend plans, camping plans, anything like that, I don't think you should cancel them. I just think a more scattered storm chance is more likely as we get into the weekend. So if we don't have any questions, that is all I have for you guys. I really appreciate everybody coming in here. And I personally am hoping that we can get this cooler trend in here so we can get this heat out of here. I'm not a fan of the heat. So I'll leave you guys at that. I hope everybody has a blessed and safe day today, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day.